President Trump's decision to end DACA and the impact here in Michigan. Plus, Little Caesars Arena opens in Detroit, a celebration amid some criticism, making sure Michigan kids get to school and so much more. Stephen and Nolan are here, and MiWeek starts right now.
Did you know Gordon Food Service was started by a 23-year-old entrepreneur as a butter and egg delivery business more than a century ago? In 1948, school teacher Gerard Wendell Hayworth borrowed $10,000 from his parents to start a woodworking operation in his family's garage. It's now Hayworth Incorporated. These are just some of the ways Michigan's pioneers started out as small companies with big ideas.
We are business leaders for Michigan. We are committed to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding for this program is provided by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.
Hi there and welcome to MiWeek. I'm Christy McDonald. We are so glad to have you with us. Say hello to our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Guys, it's good to be back here with you. I feel after a little bit of a lazy summer that now the vacations are all done with.
Summer's not over, is it?
Well, summer's not technically over, but it feels like after Labor Day, kids go back to school. Finally, when you're calling people to get appointments at work, everyone's kind of back in the office now. It's kind of got that feel, you know?
If you don't have children at home, if your children all grown, it's a great time of year to travel to places that are normally packed.
Packed with children, right?
Yeah. So get those kids off my front lawn. Yeah. But I feel like that there's a lot of conversation about kind of getting back to work, getting back into the swing of things. But I feel like I cannot stop looking at the hurricane coverage. First it was Harvey. Gosh, now
isn't that something?
Irma, which is amazing.
And then Jose coming right behind him.
I know. So it's a lot to look at too. And it's never too early to talk a little bit about the political season. So I opened up my Free Press this morning and I see the Epic MRA poll about comparing Bill Schuette with Gretchen Whitmer. Did you see the numbers there? A dead heat.
I didn't see the Free Press yet.
You didn't see the Free Press. Now that's surprising coming from a Detroit news guy. 37% for both of them, but I thought it was interesting. 26% undecided. I know you think it's sometimes too early, but it's after Labor Day, so it's no longer too early.
If you're Gretchen Whitmer, that's great news, because I think the fear among a lot of Democrats is that she wouldn't compete well against Bill Schuette, who's a very well-known name, has won statewide office 2 times, has been around since 1982 or 83 when he first ran. She's relatively unknown, so to start off in a dead heat, that's not so bad.
I know, it's still a pretty big undecided, but they also did taking a look at what her name recognition was, and 57% of people in the voters said they didn't know.
Which is not, at this point, is not something all that worrisome. You've got a lot of time to build name recognition. If you would have asked the same question of about Rick Snyder this far ahead of the 2010 election, I'm sure the number would have been much higher.
Yeah.
You can buy.
His number would have been higher into the spring, even. I mean, even after he decided to run.
You buy name recognition. She's got a lot of. She's raising a lot of money. I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, I'm not so surprised by the numbers, because if you're viewing 2018 from today's vantage point, it looks like it's going to be a tough year for Republicans. Now, lots can change. That's why we don't get too excited about polls and anything else until you start to get to the spring.
We can get sort of excited.
Lots can change, but from today's viewpoint, it's going to be a tough year for Republicans.
Yeah, I think if you're Whitmer, you want to build on this. I think if you're Schuette, you're maybe a little jarred by it. He should be at higher than 37%, I think, based on what people think. But
isn't he getting close to announcing something for real? No, this wouldn't be this.
I think so.
We're getting to the time where he should take the leap if he's going to take the leap.
I'm not sure how much all of that matters anymore. I mean, what does the announcement itself mean until you have to actually file the petitions? Everyone knows he's running. He's raising money. He's raising money as a term-limited attorney general. He can't spend it on something else.
3 years. I mean, I would tend to agree. I mean, everybody knows he's a candidate. If you ask him, are you running for governor? He'll say, well, yeah, I'm running for governor. All he hasn't done is stood up on a podium and filed the paperwork. I mean, Bill Schuette's running.
That advantage, that built-in Democratic advantage, is not just about Republican performance. Now it's also about history in the state, which is that it's really hard to succeed your own party in the governor's mansion.
Hasn't happened since the early 60s.
It happened with Milliken, but he was already in the job.
He was a de facto
So let's talk a little bit about those Republicans and Democrats in Lansing right now, because it's also kind of a refresh for them going back to work. You talked to Mayor Mike Duggan this week about his push for auto insurance reform, which he's been talking about for years now, and getting some conflicting messages from leadership in Lansing.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of laid out some of the details of his plan. It all revolves around addressing these unlimited lifetime medical benefits that Michigan is the only state in the nation pays. And he would cap them at $250,000. And then after that, you go to Medicare or you go to your own health insurance. That's how it's handled in other states. This has been, Free Press did an excellent series in the spring detailing the abuses of this system. Lawyers own stakes in clinics and send clients over and over to these clinics for tests, and under the law there's no limit to it. Nobody can, the insurers can't go in and negotiate rates. They can't negotiate tests and treatments. You want aromatherapy, you get aromatherapy. You want a massage therapist to come to your house, you get that. There's no limits. And meanwhile, we pay twice as much here in Michigan than the average American driver does for health insurance.
You make a compelling case, but now he's getting mixed messages. He's getting some support in the House, but then the Senate Majority Leader is like, well, this is not on my agenda.
Well, he doesn't like the mandatory rate setting, and I think it's important, but I think it's also sort of on the side. I mean, you can negotiate how that works, and then get to a space.
You don't entirely need it. I mean, that should not be a deal breaker.
They should get. I mean, the rates should come down a lot if you change to the system that they're talking about. What I think is interesting is that this has shifted from a Detroit conversation, which is where it started, to a statewide conversation. Right. The deal that they're likely to come up with is not the de-insurance model that Duggan was pushing, but something that relieves everybody.
Well, because rates are high all over the state. That's why I think, Meekhoff may find some trouble with his own caucus, because, people are looking at these insurance premiums and saying, what the heck here? And it's just, you pay a premium to live in Michigan.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what they take up in the next coming weeks. All right, we have a lot to get to tonight. So coming up for you, a closer look at how President Trump's decision to end the DACA program is affecting families here in Michigan, and the debate in Congress to come up with a solution in 6 months. Also ahead for you, Little Caesars Arena opens in Detroit. A lot of celebration, but also amid some nagging criticism. We will get to that. And it's back to school this week. What can we do to make sure that kids keep going to school? The effects of absenteeism and where Michigan ranks in the U.S. It is all coming up for you on MiWeek. But let's get started first with President Trump's decision to end the DACA program. Quick refresher for you. It was put in place by President Obama back in 2012, affecting 800,000 children who were brought to the U.S. illegally by their parents. They had to have been younger than 16 when they arrived to be eligible and been in the country since 2007, undergo background checks, and meet education requirements. Now, President Trump says it was an abuse of executive power and Congress should decide what happens. There are about 6,700 DACA recipients in Michigan who have jobs, pay taxes, are going to school, and are making a life here. And they are not sure what will happen next. Here's a One Detroit in-depth look. Western High School in Clark Park in southwest Detroit. The rally this week for DACA recipients came just after the afternoon bell.
DACA was rescinded today while you were in school.
Deportation, money for jobs and education, not for jails and deportation.
17-year-old Alondra Alvarez helped organize the event.
I stand up here upset, but most importantly, I stand up here for all my DACA friends and family. It affects Southwest and me because that's our families, that's our community, and without a community, there's nothing. And the fact that Trump even has us all going through this fear really tells me are you my president? Are you representing me right when all you're doing is hurting me and my community?
This is not just backward policy that will harm our economy. This is an inhumane and unjust action that is un-American and jeopardizes the security of our families across our country.
As a pastor, morally, this is wrong. You do not punish. I say you do not punish. You do not punish children for decisions of their parents.
We stand with you, and we stand united that Congress needs to take action now.
When our children are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
God bless you all. So right now we have a DACA recipient stepping up to tell his story.
Lincoln Park resident Juan Gonzalez grew up in Detroit.
So I came at the age of 1. I've been here for 23 years now.
Now he goes to Wayne State and works at Quicken Loans.
I have 3 siblings who were born after me, and they were all born here, so they're all American citizens.
With DACA, I was able to get a job, buy a house, buy a car, go to school full-time, work full-time. It's been a great time, honestly. It's been marvelous. But now that's all in danger.
I know that a lot of people in my situation are afraid to come out, and I don't want to live in the shadows. I'm not going to do that because I feel like I'm an American, and I'm going to stand up for my rights. I don't ask for Congress. I don't ask for President Trump to do any of this. I demand it.
It's not just retweets and liking things on Facebook. We have to come out and do this. We have to scream. We have to yell. We have to make people listen to us.
I mean, we're losing Americans here. It's people who love this country. I was literally willing, and still am, willing to serve this country in the U.S. Armed Forces. I'm willing to put my life on the line because I feel like I'm an American.
We can't give up hope. I mean, we're still here. So while we're still here, let's fight. That's what we have to do.
Thank you, Juan.
Juan Gonzalez says he's committed to saving DACA. He says he just began a hunger strike with some other local recipients to draw attention to their cause. As for statewide reaction, Governor Snyder said that Michigan will continue to be the most welcoming state for immigrants and dreamers. I'm going to bring both of you back in right now, and I want to bring actually forward a tweet that President Trump sent out on Thursday morning saying, for all of those concerned about your status during the 6-month period, you have nothing to worry about, no action, which contradicts a little bit about the tone the administration took when they announced earlier this week saying that they were going to be ending this program. Nolan, let me start with you and ask you, do you believe that the president should have taken this action this week and said the decision now has to go to Congress?
Well, that's where this decision belongs. We would not be in this situation had Congress passed this measure in 2012. An executive memo is no way to make substantive law, and it kept these kids in limbo all that time because, you know, that is not the sort of security and certainty they need. It could be revoked at any time. I don't think the president wants to send these kids back. I don't think anybody wants to try to round up 800,000 American kids and send them out of the country. He was looking for leverage, and he felt like if he could send this back to Congress, he knows that this is not something Congress can let happen, and neither Republicans or Democrats, for the most part, want to send these kids back. I think he's looking for leverage. I'll sign the DACA bill when you send it to me in exchange for the other things he wants in terms of immigration, most notably his law. I think he's looking for leverage here.
I think it's interesting, though. Again, I think there's a little bit of conflict with the tone coming out of the administration when you talk about the Attorney General saying, well, this opened the door to gangs coming into this country. This opened it for crime. It doesn't really fit with the way that the president's talking about it now, Stephen.
No, and it was interesting to send the Attorney General, who is a bigot, out there to announce this. One of the things that was really interesting about Jeff Sessions' address on this is what he referred to in history as the basis for this. He referred to a 1924 immigration law that was the first time that we really started restricting immigration into this country on the basis of ethnicity. That was the law that banned everyone from Asian countries from coming here. That was the law that banned people from Africa from coming to this country for many reasons. And it's a law that was invalidated in the 50s and 60s with civil rights laws, so it actually has no relevance today. But he referred to it over and over during his speech. This is the kind of signaling that this administration has become really good at, signaling to this ultra-far-right racist base that, look, we're taking America back to these times when We identify some people as other, and we treat them differently. And then, of course, in the policy washout, of course, they're never going to do this. They're never going to round up 800,000 people and send them away, but they will have said to their base, this is what we wanted to do. We delivered on our promises.
So where does this leave Republicans then, Nolan?
Well, I think you heard from the speaker this week. You heard from Mitch McConnell. Republicans don't want this in their lap. They will eventually codify this, and in the end, these dreamers will be better off than they are today in terms of a certain status. Yeah. Congress should have done this in the beginning, and we've got to get back to regular order governing, because these executive orders, whether Obama issued them or Bush issued them or Trump issued them, it's not a constitutional way to run this country.
The truth is, these are people who've been in limbo not just since this order. The order actually helped them out. I mean, helped them get legal ID and go to college and get jobs and things like that. They've been in limbo, though, in legal limbo for decades. I mean, they were at the mercy of immigration putting them out, and they couldn't work. They couldn't go to college.
Looking at a Congress right now who's had such a difficulty getting anything done or coming to any kind of conclusion that they've got 6 months to get this done. I'm not quite sure people are going to be very.
But who knows if that's a real deadline or not?
He'll kick
what the president said, if they don't do, then it comes back to me, and nobody knows what that means. These folks we saw on, these young people we saw in the video, they are not going anywhere. This issue will be fixed, and if Congress does manage to come to an agreement, it will be the first immigration reform they've been able to do, but I guarantee you they'll do this.
It's easy. I think it's easy for us to sit around a table and say that, but for the people who are out there, we saw in that video protesting, who have given all of their information to the government, they are afraid, and I think that is a real feeling that they don't have that ease. Like, well, they're going to figure this out because.
But their protection was paper thin anyway.
But it wasn't paper. It was paper thin from a constitutional and legal standpoint. In terms of the practical implication on their lives, it was much broader. These are people who, again, were able to get legal ID because of DACA. They have been able to go to college. They have been able to start businesses and have jobs. That's not paper thin.
And once Congress codifies the law, their status will be certain. And you can't imagine going into an election year, they won't codify that law.
It's having faith in our government. All right, turning now.
Hopefully they'll do something to allow us to have faith.
Let's hope so. Turning now to Detroit and the new Little Caesars Arena. Big ribbon cutting ceremony this week. The arena is officially open. The home of the Red Wings and the Pistons is just part of an over $800 million complex that will include retail, office buildings, and while the Ilitch project has been years in the making, there has been some nagging criticism surrounding taxpayer costs, the number of Detroit workers used during construction, and even the opening act taking the stage next week. But first, let's talk about really the milestone of having this arena open this week. And what people talk about is connecting regions from downtown now and kind of going into Midtown. Nolan, I guess your perception on how big this is to see an arena like this open up in Detroit.
If it comes to fruition, it's going to be huge for Detroit. It'll be the game changer everybody has been waiting for. A 50-block district, 25 blocks of which are already underway. I think it's going to change the way downtown looks, feels, operates. I think we're going to return to a true big city feel in Detroit, and the gaps in our downtown footprint will be filled in. I think it could be huge, and I think it could bring in significant revenues to the city and significant visitors and people. I think it's a big deal.
What about you, Stephen?
I mean, no one loves sports more than I do. I live.
You do want to have your own sports talk show someday, I think.
That's right. And I live downtown, so I love being able to walk and go see a ball game or a football game. And now I'll be able to go see the Pistons or the Red Wings right in the neighborhood. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there are significant problems with this deal. We've said that pretty consistently at the Free Press.
All right, so you're talking about what? The taxpayer fund, the public financing of this, which is about $324 million.
Yeah, in a city where you have people who can't buy school clothes for their kids, or who can't keep food on the table. I mean, there's something quite garish about that.
Can you do than the Ilitches were committed to paying?
Can you do a project? Hang on. Can you do a project like this though without any?
You can, but we've become so accustomed to the idea that the public pays for part of these things that no one ever raises the question anymore to say, you have a lot of money. You pay a lot of money to a lot of people when you want to. if you want to build this arena, why can't you do it on your own? This has just become sort of the standard
It's become the norm,
way.
and nowhere in the country has the return met the promises, and that's one of the issues.
This is a lot of
money.
This
is an issue the Mackinac Center, a conservative think tank, has been all over.
That's
this is corporate welfare.
Right. This is not just a liberal complaint.
Because that arena was coming here, whether the city backed the bonds or not. And I don't know what what's the actual cost of the city, $25 million, or in terms of the backing of these bonds. I mean, the contribution by the city is not $324 million. There's the servicing costs or whatever the city is paying, but whatever it is, it's the price they would pay a hockey center or a piston or a piston guard and who may or may not wash out.
Okay, and another complaint, and I'm going to turn to you on this, Stephen, is you wrote a pretty powerful column that ran in the Sunday's Free Press, taking aim at Kid Rock being the opening act. And I feel that this was actually a conversation that was percolating here on this show a couple of weeks ago. We started talking about this, and then you put pen to paper, and we have a little bit of your column here, and I know you have it in front of you. Why did you feel the need to write it?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's been bugging me since they announced it. I just thought it was an inappropriate choice. But what's happened in the interim and sort of in the balance has made it a more urgent concern in my mind. And I think at this time in this city, given what's going on in the rest of the country, picking somebody who has wrapped himself in the Confederate flag, even though he now says, well, I don't really think that, even though it shows up in a video that he released just like 6 months ago, I just think it sends a message to Detroiters that's not okay. There are considerable concerns in this city about who is the beneficiary of all of these things, these great things that we're doing in downtown Detroit. A lot of African Americans don't feel welcome. They don't feel like this is for them. Having Kid Rock christen a publicly subsidized, gigantic arena in the middle of downtown Detroit on the heels of Charlottesville, on the heels of what he said about Colin Kaepernick, I just think, as I said in the column, is erecting a pretty sturdy middle finger to Detroiters.
Now, Little Caesars Arena and the folks, they did respond to this and say, artists don't speak for exactly what we think. Nolan, do you believe that the statement that they put out was strong enough and that they should continue to do what they're going to do?
I would disagree with Steve about Kid Rock. I respect his opinion and his feelings and his concern here. I don't see Kid Rock in that same light. I think when at the time he wrapped himself in the Confederate flag, he was trying to build this image of a rebel and rebelliousness, and I'm outside sort of the establishment. I don't think he's a racist. I don't think he's a white supremacist, words that have been used against him. I think the big problem with that people have today with Kid Rock is he's a Donald Trump supporter. I saw him in 2 concerts, both at Republican conventions. I would never go to a third concert. And not because
too loud. Was it too loud?
No, not because, too loud? No, it was too vulgar. I mean, not because of the. I thought he implied any sort of racism. I never saw any of that. It was just the most vulgar 2-3 hours I ever spent in my life.
Crass,
I didn't feel, crass is a good word, I didn't feel that level of crassness. I like his music, but I would not go to a Kid Rock concert.
Well, you're going to see a demonstration.
I don't think it's racist.
There's going to be a demonstration next week.
You put it in the context of all these other things, right? The public subsidy, the falling short on the promises of Detroiters participating in this work. Not entirely the fault of the Ilitches, but again, something that doesn't come true. The promises that all of these projects would come up together, right? It wasn't just going to be an arena and the stuff in the arena. They said we are simultaneously developing these other blocks. That's not. I mean, you drive through the Cass Quarter. It is not happening.
Well, the business school is going to go. I mean,
that's
theirs too. This is going to be kind of the second phase to it.
But you can't truly fault the Ilitches. They looked at Kid Rock and said, well, heck, if he was good enough for the NAACP, which just a couple of years ago gave him an award after the Confederate flag incident.
Well,
he's good enough for us.
I think that's problematic too. But it's not.
But still, if you look at the Ilitches, they would have.
I think Chris Ilitch could very easily have said, you know what, this is not the message we want to send to Detroiters on the day that we open this arena. And I don't think it would have taken a whole lot of consciousness to arrive at that space.
I mean, they picked a guy who has been huge in Michigan, has been a good ambassador.
It makes them a lot of money, that's for sure.
Makes them a lot of money, and they're in business.
All right, and there's doing a bunch of concerts next week, and we'll open up. Hey, I wanted to. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately.
I'm going to be there in the front row.
You know, Stephen will be there. But hey, we want to talk about absenteeism. We kind of ran out of time a little bit. I know the kids are back in school this week. In terms of Michigan, new report out: 660 schools in the state, about 19% of them, at least 30% of the students are chronically absent. So we're going to talk about that in a little initiative that you're going to be doing at the Detroit News, taking a look at saying, hey, give us your solutions for education in Michigan, and we're going to go forward on that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll talk about that next week. Good to see you guys. And that's going to do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at MiWeek, also at MiWeek.org for any of the shows you might have missed. I'm Christy McDonald. Come back and see us next Thursday for MiWeek. Promise, we'll talk education.
Did you know Roush Enterprises was selected by Google to assemble a test fleet of 100 prototype self-driving cars in 2015? It also produced the new Domino's delivery cars. And speaking of Domino's, Domino's sells well over 2 million pizzas per day around the world, and half of their sales are digital. These are just some of the ways Michigan's pioneers started out as small companies with big ideas.
We are business leaders for Michigan. We are committed to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding for this program is provided by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.